Good day, everyone. To talk about the cooperative learning models, here is speaking is Diane Alan Mendoza, a Master in Business Education student. Let us now start the discussion with this slide. When we say cooperative learning, what is it? It talks about what? Cooperative learning is an instructional context in which peers work together on a learning task with the goal of all participants benefiting from the interaction. It is especially implemented for the development of every student's social skills. So in this case, critical, creative, and empathetic thinking activities should be given to students in pairs to accomplish jointly. A variety of cooperative learning models have been developed, and the selection of one is influenced by the expected outcomes for instruction, the subject area, and the social skills of the pupils. Today, I will be presenting 3 cooperative learning models which were considered as well-known cooperative learning techniques. The Jigsaw Model, role-playing model, and scripted cooperation will be elaborated for utilization in any content area. First, the Jigsaw Model. This method is a teaching strategy of organizing student group work that helps students collaborate and rely on one another. It is effective for accomplishing multiple tasks at once and for giving students a greater sense of individual responsibility. Elliot Aronson, one of the early pioneers of the Jigsaw method, explains that in the cooperative classroom, the students achieve success as a consequence of paying attention to their peers, asking good questions, helping each other, teaching each other, and helping each other teach. Students are not pitted against one another in competitions to earn the teacher's limited time and attention. Instead, they are encouraged to embrace the knowledge from individuals all around them. Now, the question is, how are we going to execute Jigsaw model accurately? So here is a clip of steps that will make us understand the proper way of using the Jigsaw model.
Step 1 is to divide students into groups of 4 to 6 people per group. Jigsaw works best when you have the same number of students in each team, so avoid having some groups of 4, some of 5, and some of 6. For this example, we'll assume you're working with a class of exactly 30 students who can be divided evenly into groups of 6. We'll call these Jigsaw groups. Step 2, divide your content into 4 to 6 chunks. It's important to divide the content into the same number of chunks as the number of students in each group. So if you have 6 students per group, break your content into 6 chunks. If you're only going to have 5 students in each group, then you'll only need 5 chunks. A chunk of content can be a section of a textbook chapter, a handout containing information, or an online resource. Step 3, assign one chunk of content to each person in the Jigsaw group. Each group has one person responsible for one chunk of the content. That person will be expected to teach that chunk to the rest of the group. At this point, students don't really interact with other members of their group. They just read and study their own chunk of content independently. Then their independent study is fortified by the next step. Step 4, have students meet in expert groups. After each student has studied his or her chunk independently, they gather with all the other students who have been assigned to the same chunk. These are called expert groups. Within each expert group, students compare their ideas and work together to prepare some kind of presentation to give to their Jigsaw group. During this time, gaps in individual students' knowledge can be filled, misconceptions can be cleared up, and important concepts can be reinforced. Step 5, students return to Jigsaw groups. Now that students have studied their chunks in their expert groups, they return to their original Jigsaw groups, where each student takes a turn presenting their chunk of information. Meanwhile, the other students listen carefully, take notes, and ask lots of questions. Once the first expert has gone, the others take their turns. As each expert teaches their chunk of content, the others in the group are learning it. Step 6, assess all students on all the content. The assessment can be a simple quiz to make sure all students got a basic understanding of all the material. Be sure to include all content chunks in this quiz.
At First, the teacher will facilitate the arranging of small groups, explaining of roles and timing for each portion. He or she doesn't have to lecture or be the focal point of attention. When the students are in groups for steps 4 and 5, the teacher should walk amongst the groups and lend support or explanation when and where necessary. He or she may find it valuable to appoint one student in each group as the leader who can manage time. Make sure each student contributes their part and ensure the group is accomplishing the goal. Next, role playing. It is a teaching practice designed to improve the learning atmosphere in the class. All people relate with one another and their environment in systematic and patterned ways. An examination of these patterns of interaction or roles constitutes the major task of this model. This model has been used successfully in a variety of situations and institutions. A number of researches proved that it is truly effective in teaching students human relation skills in life. Dr. J. L. Moreno designed the first known role-playing techniques in 1910, which was used to provide participation and involvement in the learning process. The efficiency of academic learning through the portrayal of current events or historical circumstances increase with the utilization of the role-playing model. It allows the learner to experience a real-life situation in a protected environment. Further, students are given the opportunity to practice on new behaviors, thus decreasing the gap between thinking and doing. The following are the 9 suggested steps in the successful execution of role playing inside a classroom. Step 1. Warm up the group. This step involves presenting students with a problem, providing examples, and having students predict what might happen. Step 2. Select participants. In this step, the characters and their characteristics are identified and students volunteer or the teacher assigns the roles. The teacher should not assign roles based on student suggestion. However, as that could put a student in an uncomfortable situation or stereotype the student. Step 3. Set the stage. A line of action and the setting are established and the roles are restricted. Step 4. Prepare the observers. To make sure that the whole group stays involved, the teacher is encouraged to assign them tasks. For example, the observers could evaluate the realism of the role playing, respond to the effectiveness and sequences of the role player's behavior, and define the feeling and ways of thinking of the persons being portrayed. Step 5. Enact. The players assume the roles and spontaneously leave the situation from beginning to end of the situation. Step 6. Discuss and evaluate. In this step, the action of the role playing is reviewed, the focus is discussed, and the next enactment is developed. Step 7. Reenact. New interpretations of roles are shared and new possibilities for causes and effects are explored in this step. Step 8. Discuss and evaluate as was done in Step 6. And Step 9. Share experiences and generalize. The problem situation is related to children's current problems and the real experience is a non-threatening way. So the teacher is responsible for initiating the steps and guiding students through the activities within each step. However, the students are responsible for choosing the content of the discussions and the enactments. Student responses are accepted in a non-evaluative manner. The teacher helps students on sides of the problem situation and compare alternative views. Lastly, skirted cooperation. It is a study strategy in which students, in pairs, take turns verbally summarizing portions of material. They use a collaboration script, which is a set of instructions used to improve collaborative learning among students in technology-enhanced environments. It provides students with guidance, ensuring that each learner participates actively and equally. This technique was examined based on the murder method that was developed by Danseru in 1979. Laboratory research indicates that the scripted cooperation strategy has a number of potential benefits. First, the method can serve to increase acquisition of text material relative to students studying alone. In addition, the method appears to enhance metacognitive skills and generates positive effects associated with studying relative to learners studying alone. Lastly, this technique has been found to lead to improvements in both oral and written communication. If students arrive in the classroom without cooperative skills, the utilization of this model can be considered. This is where the teacher has to teach the students two roles, the recaller and the listener. So to guide us in the implementation of the scripted cooperation, here are the steps for us to follow. Step 1. Both partners listen to the presentation or read the text orally or silently, then take notes. One partner plays the role of recaller, the other partner plays the role of listener. Step 2. The recaller summarizes the presentation orally without looking at any notes. He or she will recall out loud from memory all the things that can be remembered from the presentation. Step 3. The listener listens carefully to discover any errors or omissions. He can use his or her notes when listening to the summary. Step 4. When the recaller is finished, the listener provides feedback to the recaller on errors, distortions, and material omitted. Step 5. Together, partners elaborate on the material presented, develop analogies, generate images, relate the new information to prior knowledge, or reformat the material. This script keeps student partners on task and ensures that meaningful processing takes place. So this activity can be used following a brief teacher presentation or after students have read an assigned portion of text. Before the teacher uses this scripted process, he or she must teach it to his students using an I do it, we do it, you do it model. The teacher may also find it useful to develop a simple rubric to help students evaluate their own effectiveness as partners or groups and to help serve as the evaluator of their outputs. Now, let me conclude my presentation with this. A variety of cooperative learning models have been developed. Jigsaw, role-playing, scripted cooperation, and many more. The selection of one is influenced by the expected outcomes for instruction, the subject area, and the social skills of the pupils. Teachers who wish to use cooperative learning models to promote students' achievement need to be thoughtful in considering the implications of their decisions about group size, rewards, group composition, and their own role in the classroom. Fundamentally, cooperative learning that promotes student achievement depends on the quality of student interaction. The teacher must be both willing and skillful in his or her approach in the chosen learning model, because the accurate execution of any will lead to its successful execution. They should model positive social skills, have students practice the skills, and encourage the students to reflect on how effectively they will be performing the skills. These are my references. If you have any questions or clarifications about this presentation, feel free to send an email to dianeolanmendoza@gmail.com. Thank you and have a great day ahead.